Hello, and welcome to Hot Cocoa Episode 12. It's been a while. I originally didn't mean for the hiatus to go on for this long. Originally, I only meant it to go on for like 1 or 2 weeks. But this semester has been a bit more project-oriented than I had expected, and I'll post some of those projects if you're interested. They're kind of interesting. But yeah, I haven't had time to edit it, really, basically. But now that spring break is here, I have time to do stuff again for once. So, welcome to Hot Cocoa episode 12 with new fancy microphone equipment. Yeah, I can hide behind a pop shield. Anyway, in this week's episode of Hot Cocoa, we're going to be taking a look at how you can get your application, remove the icon from the dock and get rid of its menu bar, and create a HUD-like application like Twitterrific, where the only thing you have to access your application is a little icon up in the status bar. So that's what's coming up on Hot Cocoa episode 12. So we'll begin with opening the project that we left off with in episode 11, our tweet application here. There we go, tweet app, yay. Now the first thing we need to do to get our application up into the status bar, as it's called, up here, is we need to get an icon for it. And I just so happen to have one right here on the desktop. And the specifications that you'll generally want is you generally want a 16 by 16 icon. It can be PNG, it can be TIFF, it can be bitmap, whatever. And you'll also want it to probably be black or some shade of like gray with maybe some white in it. This is like white and gray. You'll notice all the other icons up here are black, or the Twitterrific icon I think looks a little gray. There are some applications that don't follow that. Dropbox is one. Its application icon is blue. Personally, that doesn't bother me, but some people get annoyed when all of their little icons up here don't look uniform. So it's a good idea to either include a black one, or at least give people the choice to pick between them, which I think Adium does. So we have our little icon here, and we now need to get this icon into the Xcode project, which is very simple. We just go to resources here, and we drag it into resources, not into other sources, into resources, and copy it into the destination group folder, which means it copies it into your project folder, which is here, which is good to copy it into there. And we'll add, and ta-da, there's our little icon. And you'll notice it has a transparent background, which is good because that means it'll blend into the menu bar here better. So now that we have our icon, what we need to do is write the code that puts our status bar up there. And we're going to put this code in a very special place, which I'm not sure if we've talked about this before. We may have not. We're going to use the awake from nib method, which is a built-in method that any application can call, which basically whenever this window is loaded from the zib file or nib file, this method is called, which means, hey, the application is up and running. What do you want me to do now? So to do that, we're just going to do void awake from nib, like so, and have our little brackets there. And this doesn't need to be added to the header file because the awake from nib method is defined within Cocoa itself. You're not defining it, you're just overriding it. And we want to add a new status item, and we want to add it to in a status bar like so, and we want to do it to the system. We want to add it to the system status bar. I don't know if there are any other status bars, but that's where we want to add it. And we're going to use the method called status item with length, which apparently reserves the number of pixels that it takes up. I'm not really sure what purpose that has. But I've only ever seen it equal -1. So we're going to have that as -1. And we want to make sure we retain this. Retain. There we go. And the reason we want to specifically ask it to retain this is because normally, once we exit the awake from nib method here, it would be erased from memory, and then we would have no way to access it again, which is bad because we may want to change it and do stuff to it later. So we want to specifically ask it to make sure to retain this this pointer here in memory. Then we're going to take this status item and add our icon to it using the status item set image. And we want to set that to ns image named, and our image is named, there it is, 16-comment. And you don't need the file extension here, so you can just put 16 comment there. That's it. And if we want there's two things we can do with our status item. We can either have it just show and hide the application, which is what we're going to show you first, or you can have it show a drop-down menu, which is slightly more complicated, and we'll do that second. So first, we want to set its target. Status item set target. We want to set it to self, which basically means if it calls an action, it'll refer to itself as where that action will be located. And we want to set that action, in this case, to status item set action. And at selector, whenever you reference another method within another method, generally, you'll either, if you're calling it, you'll do bracket self, the name of the method in bracket, and then a semicolon. If you're referring to it as a method that's going to be called by something else, you generally put it within an at selector, which then you just put the method name here, which you haven't written yet, but it will be called status item click. And you need to make sure you include the colon at the end there. Close that up. And finally, we want to set status item set highlight. Set highlight mode to yes or true, which basically means if you click on it, then the icon will be highlighted, which is good. We want it to be highlighted. So now what we need to do is write the code for this. Actually, before that, what we need to do is define status item within our header file. Because right now we're just doing stuff to it and it hasn't been declared in the header file. So it's an ns status item, obviously enough. And we're just going to call that status item like we did in the actual code. There we go. That's it. Now what we need to do while we're in here, we might as well go ahead and add the header information for that action or that method we just decided to write, called status item click. And in case we want to know what send it, we'll just put an id sender there. And you can copy this like so. Paste it over to here like so. Get rid of the semicolon and add our brackets. And basically what this code is going to do is show and hide the application, and that's it. In order to do that, we need to make a reference to our application's window so we can show and hide that window. And to do that, we're going to go back into the header file, and we're going to do the same thing we have here with the login window, except we're going to do it with the main window. So we're going to have an IB outlet, ns window, and this is going to be main window. There we go. And now we just need to link that up in our zip file. So we'll open that. And make sure we saved this so Interface Builder actually knows about it. And then we'll just drag from our app controller, like so, to our, let me change the view so it's easier to see what's going on. There you go. And we want to link it to this window, which is our main window, not this window, which is the login window. Link it like that, and main window. There we go. Save our zip file. You can close Interface Builder and switch back over to our source code. Now that we have a way of referencing it, we can use an if-then statement, which is basically able to flip-flop back and forth. And we're going to ask it if main window is visible. So there we go. Then if ns window, did I get this backwards? Almost. I'll type it first and then I'll explain. We want to find out if it's the key window, which basically means if this is the window that's in front. And then if it is, then we want to make it not in front. If it is in front, we want to make it not in front. And we do that by doing main window perform close and the sender's self, because we're sending the command. And jump down here, make an else statement like so. And if it's not the key window, then we want to make it the key window by calling activate ignoring other apps. Yes. Which basically forces it to the front. And then if it's not the key window, basically what the key window means is if you type something and if it goes to that window, wherever what you're typing goes into, that's the key window. So if it's not the key window and it's not visible, then we want to make sure that it actually is visible. So we make another else statement here, and we're going to do ns app activate ignoring other apps go. Yes. And then we want to call main window make key and order front self. And what that'll do is that'll set whatever's inputting to go to our application and bring it up to the front. So let's try that code and see how it works. Yes, we like to save and compile it. So we have our application here and we have its cute little icon up here, and you'll notice if we click it, it'll go away and come back and go away and come back and go away and come back. Go away, come back, go away, come back, go away, come back. Even if it's not the main focus. There we go. So we got that functionality down, but you'll notice it's still down here in the dock, which we want to get rid of. And the reason, my own personal reason for this, is that if an application is going to be running all the time and I don't always want to access it that often, I would rather it not be taking up space in my dock. If it's less critical, I would like it up here. Now, there's a bit of disclaimer about doing this from the Apple Human Interface Guidelines, and that is that Apple says don't do this. If at all you can avoid it, use the dock menu, which is this thing here. Use the dock menu to do whatever you would do up here. However, there are reasons for doing this beyond what the Human Interface Guidelines say, and other applications do it, and so long as you do it correctly and make sure you make up for what I'm about to show you, because some things are going to go away and you'll need to make up for them. So long as you do that and realize that the icon may not always be there. For example, if you have a not so wide of a screen and a lot of menu options, like in Final Cut Pro, for example, and a lot of things going on over here, if they meet in the middle, then these icons are going to start disappearing because the menu is more important. If it goes over too far, then the user may not have access to the icons without switching to an application with less menu items. So be aware that it may not always be there for the user to click on. So now that we've done that disclaimer and told you that Apple says don't do this, we're going to do it anyway. The next thing we need to do is get it out of the dock. And this is where another little warning comes in. And to demonstrate that warning, I'm going to show you Twitterrific. So we'll close our application and open up Twitterrific here. Now you'll notice Twitterrific does not have a menu bar. When you open it up, the menu bar stays at whatever last application you used was, which makes sense because it looks like a HUD. It's not really a HUD, it's just skinned like a HUD, but it looks like a HUD. You'll also notice that it has no dock icon. Now, there's a couple things to remember when you get rid of the menu and the dock icon, because there's no way, as far as I know, to only get rid of the dock icon. If you're going to get rid of the dock icon, the menu will go away too. And with the menu going away, the quit option, which if we switch over to like Xcode here, there will be no quit option there. So you're going to have to make up for that in your own application by providing a quit option. Which in Twitterrific, for example, you can't put it here because that just closes the window. It keeps the application running and gets rid of the window. Twitterrific's option is down here as a button called Quit Twitterrific, which if we click it, then Twitterrific will go away. So now that we have that disclaimer done, make sure you make up for what you're doing. I did not tell you to reload those tweets. Now that you've made up for what's missing, we're going to find out how to get rid of the dock icon, which luckily is very, very easy. We're going to venture into the info plists file, info.plist here. My papers are sliding around. There we go. And we want to go here and click that little button and add another key here. And this key is going to be called LSUI element. And we want to enable that. And what that's going to do is get rid of the dock icon and the menu. So if we run it and save it, you notice it now has no dock icon and it now has no menu. But we still have this, so we can open it and close it. But you'll notice that if we close this, it's still running. See? We now have no way of closing it short of clicking this stop task button or going into the activity monitor. Because another caveat when using this is if you run it, you'll notice it also doesn't show up in force quit, and neither does Twitterrific. So you can't go into there. You have to either make sure that you provide a way to close it, or the user is going to have to go into the activity monitor and close it from there. And that is definitely not a very friendly user experience. But until then, since we're still in Xcode, we can click the stop button and that'll stop it. Now there's one other thing here that I want to show you, and that is LSUI presentation mode, which if we go here and add another key, LSUI presentation mode, you can set this to a value between 0 and 4. 0 is the default value. It will do nothing special. 1 and 2, as far as I can tell, don't really seem to do anything without maybe writing some extra code. But what we're interested in are 3 and 4. And I'll show you what happens. If we set it to 3 and run our application, watch what happens. Oop, the menu bar goes away and so does the dock. And there's no way to get them back without closing the application, and poof, they come back. Or actually, I think if you also switch to another if you switch to another application, they'll also come back. We close that, they'll come back. And 4, you'll probably recognize from how the DVD player, at least after Leopard, works, where if we run it, the menu bar and dock goes away. But if you put your mouse up there, then the menu bar will come back and so will the dock. You can also play with that. We won't be using them for this particular application, so we're going to go back and do LSUI element. Here in LSUI element. There we go. And set that to true. Now, as I said, there is more than one way to deal with a status bar icon. We showed you the first way, where you won't have a menu and clicking it just shows and hides the application. But the second way is you can also add a menu to it, which you'll notice, for example, here with LogMe, and you click on it and it drops down a menu. So how we're going to do that is we need to create an NS menu item, which we will then set to the status items menu. So in order to do that, we're going to write a new method called create menu, and it will return an NS menu object, or the pointer to an NS menu object to be specific. That's why that little asterisk is there. Create menu. And to do this, we want to create an NS zone called menu zone. And this is going to equal NS menu zone. This is just a lot of preparation. NS menu, create a new NS menu called menu. And we're going to do NS menu alloc with zone menu zone. Basically, the menu just needs a zone to go in, and then we're going to do our init here. init. There we go. And we want to add NS menu items to that menu. Each little option in the menu is a menu item. So in order to do that, we're going to do MS menu item. There we go. Now we want to add menu items to our menu, which is quite simple actually. We just take menu item, and for example, let's just make a close one for now so this doesn't go on forever. We'll have menu. Oops, can't type. Menu. Add item with title. And call this quit. And our action. And I don't know why I put it over there. I'll fix the spacing later. Our action, again, we're going to use a selector because we're telling it that this is a particular method that we're going to be calling, and we'll just call this app quit. There we go. Oh, there it goes. Now it's moving over. Close that off. Don't put that semicolon there like I just did. Excuse me while I fight a little bit with Xcode. Generally, just stylistically, you want all of these colons to line up, and sometimes it does that automatically, sometimes it doesn't. I have yet to figure out how to consistently get it to do that, but until then, you may have to screw around with it a bit. Then we have the key equivalent option, which for now we'll just set to nothing. And there you go. That'll move that one over. And we want to set its target, menu item, set target again to self. Now another thing you can do is add a separator, which is basically just a bar. And the way you do that is by going to menu, add item, and then you want to here we go, add NS menu item, separator item, and there you go. Then you'll have a little bar like here, these bars. That's a separator icon, or item rather. And then we want to return this menu as a menu object. And then of course we also want to reference this in our header, so we can just copy that, paste it over here, ta-da, add a semicolon, and you're done. And we also need to call this and set the menu, and to do that, what we have to do is create a new NS menu object, which we're going to call menu. And so that equals to self create menu, like that. Simple enough. And see, we want to go down here, and because you're clicking on it just to open a menu, we can get rid of this. And what we want to do is go to set menu and tell it to put that as the menu there. Like so. And let's run this application and see if it works. And here we have our application. And if we go here, ta-da, we'll see we can have a little quit option in there. Now, which is grayed out because we haven't written the method app quit yet. So the last thing we're going to do is I'll show you how to get the application to quit using our method that we came up here called app quit, which all you have to do is it returns void app quit, and we need to find out what we're going to be quitting. So we'll find the sender here. And then we're going to use NSApps method called terminate. Terminate sender. And that's it. And of course, take this and make sure it is in the header file. Like that. So we run this. And now our quit option there is enabled. Click it and the application quits. So you'll see there is it starts out simple and can get complicated very quickly. But you need to, when you do this, remember to make sure that all of the options you're taking away, you put back in some other form, and make sure the user can find it. That's an important thing. Make sure the user can find out where it is, so they don't have to go to Activity Monitor, for example, to quit your application because they can't find the quit button. So this concludes this episode of Hot Cocoa, episode 12. See you again next time on Hot Cocoa.